Genji is like if you put Doomguy and Jetstream Sam into a blender, popping out a cyborg ninja who can cut through you at the speed of sound, obliterating your bones into a fine powder. That's what I'd say if this were Genji at the launch of Overwatch 2. After his nerf a few seasons ago, Genji all but vanished off the face of the earth. But now we're so fucking back. Is he a meta-defining monster right now? No, that honor belongs to The Rock. Am I the best Genji to ever do it? God no, that honor goes to the professional benchwarmer with 2 rings. And another question you might be asking yourself is, why isn't that one song playing in the background? And the answer to that, my dear viewer, is putting a 30-second long montage with an epilepsy warning at the front of a video is bad for engagement. So take a 12-second one instead. So what has changed with Genji from the transition from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch? Nothing. Absolutely nothing has changed with his kit. But I think I speak for all of us when I say I think we all wanted everything to stay exactly the same. His left click fires off 3 shurikens in quick succession, forming a straight line. And if you just so happen to hit anything with them, it does amazing chip. I mean, I still can't hit shit with these, but it's good practice to just spam them down the corridor, since unless you're playing Widowmaker, that accuracy stat just isn't real. His right click, on the other hand, is your bread and butter. This fires off 3 shurikens even faster in what I like to call shotgun formation. This is your infant annihilator. Think of him like an Infernape. Yeah, this monkey could burn you to a crisp with a flamethrower, but he likes locking you in a cage for 3 minutes of playtime with that close combat. Genji likes to be up close and personal with the enemy, so when you're using your alternate fire on tanks, you will really shred their health bar. That is, if you are ever fighting a tank. Genji is more of a flanker, kind of like Roadhog when you think about it. You should be finding funny little ways to dive onto those supports and take them out of the fight with your one-shot combo. What is the one-shot combo, you may be asking? Well, it's when you look at an enemy and... yeah, I really don't have a better explanation than that. Sometimes on your way to the supports, you might find the enemy team's flanker if they have one, and you can do 2 things here. The first and correct thing to do is ignore them and let your supports deal with it. The second thing that you can do is duel them to show them who's boss. Now, you just simply don't lose these, or else it's a skill issue. Now let's move on to your abilities. Starting off with the funnier of the 2, you have your Reflect. Reflect, well, does exactly what it says. It reflects. When you press E, this will block almost any projectile in the game and send it flying back at whatever direction you're looking. Again, there are a few exceptions here, like Ra, but whatever you don't reflect, you usually just end up blocking it entirely. This leads to some funny interactions, like how are you blocking air? It can also lead to some very satisfying things to reflect back, like Zarya Grav or racist arrows. However, it's so rare that when it does happen, you feel omnipotent. It's also a useful tool for when you feed into the backline and have to wait 8 seconds for your dash to come back online. Speaking of dash, let's move on to his second ability, and by far and away his most important one. You can use it to engage, you can use it to disengage, you can use it to feed into the enemy backline and then spam I need healing where the supports can't get to you. There are so many options, you can even get a little creative. Dashing into a low health enemy will turn you into my 2006 Toyota Corolla, and whatever poor bastard that just happens to be on the end of your sword, my neighbor's mailbox. What that means is it's a quick finish to any low health enemy that just happens to be out of melee range. If you happen to score an elim while the dash is on cooldown or with the dash itself, the cooldown will reset. So you can do cool things like scoring a kill and then noping right the fuck out of there when things get tough. You can also chain together these dash resets for something that looks like what I think ecstasy feels like. What you don't want to do is use it to engage and then not have a way out. For example, dashing in, not scoring the kill, and then dying is doing nothing for your team. Now, I'm all for feeding, but I'm a tank player, and I really don't want to run into any of you fuckers in my game with 11 deaths in 5 minutes. So remember, your team needs you to survive. Being permanently down any member of your team isn't a good thing. If you can use any of your other movement abilities like your wall climb or double jump to get into the backline, score a kill, and get out without dying, that would be a good thing. Diving in Overwatch 2 can be hard, especially on the regular ranked ladder where synergy can be lacking sometimes. Hey Winston, you mind if you're on dive here?
Why don't you dive off a fucking cliff?
Oftentimes you want to dive with someone so all the pressure isn't on you and you alone. Winston has great synergy when diving with Genji, as his bubble allows him and you to stay in the fight a little longer. Remember to play around your environment. That's especially true if you don't have anyone to dive with. Going in quietly instead of right through the center of the enemy team gives a smaller chance that anyone will have time to react and peel for your attack. And remember to try and peel for your supports when you can. If the enemy team just happens to set up a dive before you and they jump your poor Ana, she's gonna need some help. And if your supports are dead, you can't spam that you need healing. Nobody will hear your screams and they will go into the void. One support that Genji likes to play with is Kiriko. Even though her Afuda takes 7 business days even with express shipping, she can dive with you with her teleport and help deal damage and even cleanse you if things get rough. However, your main man is Ana. Ana is the Robin to your Batman, the Mercy to your Sojourn, the Garfield to your Lasagna. She will most likely be the one healing you when you're on your expedition into the enemy backline. So when you are back there, make sure she can see you. Now, Dash has one more utility I didn't mention yet, and that's to let Ana know when the real montage starts. Finally, we have your ultimate ability, the fucking pool noodle. Now, don't get me wrong, it's definitely strong, just not strong all the time anymore. I mean, look at this thing, it's like a goddamn piece of fine Italian cuisine sometimes. Genji decided to bring a knife to a gunfight, and more often than not, it's a 50-50 whether it works out for him. A lot of supports can either out-heal most of the damage Dragonblade does, or escape from it with relative ease, so make sure you try and bait some cooldowns before you even think about pulling it out. Moira is a really good example of this. If you dash onto her or get her low, more likely than not she's going to fade. Wait until she comes back from the void and then delete her from this reality and any other. The same goes for a lot of damage characters as well. If they're at full health with movement abilities and you waste your dash, they can just run. It by itself can be used as a really strong engagement tool to get those pesky support ultimates out, as more often than not, you are in a game of chicken with the supports seeing who's going to ult first. But there are a few ways around this. Depending on yours and the enemy team's composition, Blade might be the strongest tool for your team to win a fight, so you can use a weaker ultimate to get the enemy team to burn support ults and then Blade, or you can just straight remove the supports from the fight by sending them back to spawn before even whipping it out. The last and least reliable option is that you can dash up into the air acting like you're going to Blade and then not. Genji dashing up into the air is kind of like a Reaper fading into the entire team to ult. It's the most obvious sign that he's probably going to do it. However, a lot of players just wait and react to see if you actually do it, or just aren't paying attention and then react to it anyway. There's actually a secret fourth option that guarantees you win the fight every time, and that's Nanoblade. Nanoblade is strong enough to win a fight on its own even through most support ultimates, as long as you don't miss your swings, that is. With Nanoblade, you can one-shot through Zenyatta's Transcendence if you're good enough. The same could be said for regular Blade, but obviously with Nano it's a whole lot stronger and a whole lot harder to mess up. So my dear viewer, what have we learned today? I think we learned that only through forgiveness can you grow. Genji was murdered by his own brother and left for dead. Only by learning from Robot Gandhi himself did he find it in his heart to forgive his brother. By showing up to his own grave and beating his brother's ass, that is. That's why today I will be forgiving my very real ex-wife for taking the kids and 33% of my income. And that's why I also forgive you, dear viewer, for not smashing that MF like and subscribe button. Do it.